My name is Jordan Burrs, and I'm going to be your host on the Odd Shopper channel for the entire FIFA 2022 World Cup. Around the world, we call it football, but for you Americans, I'll call it soccer in these videos. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down my group stage predictions, who I think is going to end first all the way to fourth, some teams and favorites you should watch out for, and definitely some underdogs that shouldn't go beneath your radar. Before that though, DraftKings has an amazing offer for you. All you have to do is bet $5 pre-game on any money line, and if you win it, you will receive $200 straight into your bankroll. Some advice I would say to you is pick a money line with super low odds so you're almost guaranteed to win it. A couple of those games happening this weekend are the Baltimore Ravens at minus 660 against the Carolina Panthers. And then in some college football this week, we've got Tennessee over South Carolina at minus 2,400, which is basically a 97% hit rate. Don't be silly. Take your free money, get in on those low odd money lines, take the money, build your bankroll ahead of this FIFA World Cup so that you can be here every day with me, betting daily on every single football game. Moving into Group A. Now in Group A, we see three-time losing finalists Netherlands, AFCON winners Senegal, the host Qatar, and the South American qualifiers Ecuador. On first glance, Netherlands look like the clear favorites in this group. They are 15 games undefeated. In the past 10 FIFA World Cup tournaments, they've managed to make it out of the group stage every single time. We saw how well they did in the Nations League, and they probably have the best defense in the World Cup. Van Dijk, De Ligt, De Vrij, Dumfries, Timber, the list goes on. This Netherlands side is here, and they're one of the underdogs that I would keep my eye on across this World Cup. Then moving on to Qatar, the host nations. They're trying to become the second host nation not to be eliminated at the group stage. Obviously, that happened in 2010 when South Africa failed to qualify for their own World Cup. To be honest, I don't have much faith in Qatar. I'm putting Qatar in that number 4th position. We've then got Ecuador and Senegal battling for that second spot. Netherlands, I think, will definitely take number 1 spot. Ecuador, a very feisty young team that will be looking to throw the spanner in this group. Senegal, the big talking point is Sadio Mane. He got injured, and we're not sure in which match day he's going to be back for Senegal. Even if Sadio Mane doesn't play, the Senegalese side is just littered with talent. You've got Mendy in goals, Koulibaly, Idrissa Gueye. I think Senegal could do this without Sadio Mane. So for me, I'm putting Senegal in second and Ecuador in third. Moving into Group B, we've got one of the favorites of the tournament, England. We've got long-awaited returnees, Wales. We've got USA, who are underdogs in this group, and we've got Iran. Now, England have been facing troubles with their form lately. We saw how bad they were in the Nations League. They finished last in their group. Can Gareth Southgate turn this team around? Will Harry Kane put his hand up like he did in 2018 after he won the Golden Boot? Will Raheem Sterling, Foden, Grealish, all of these boys need to step up to put in a good shift for this England team. Otherwise, there could be tears come knockout stages. Then we've got Wales, who last time they played in the World Cup was 1958. Gareth Bale will be making his first and last appearance at the World Cup, so he'll want to make a mark on the 2022 World Cup. And then you've got USA and Iran. Iran have been to the World Cup 6 times and failed to make it out of the group stage every single time. For USA, this could be a fairy tale story for Greg Berhalter. He played in the 2002 USA team that made it all the way to the quarterfinals. Do I think USA can make it to the quarterfinals? Maybe not. I do think they could make it to the round of 16 though, just because they'll have to face Netherlands in the round of 16. So for me, England, I'm sure they're going to sort out their nuts and bolts. They have to. Their fans are some of the craziest fans alive, and if they don't, there will be chaos in the streets of England. So for me, England in the number 1 position, a little bit of an upset here, and the bookies agree with me. USA in second, Iran in third, and Wales in fourth. Group C, we have one of the favorites of the World Cup, Argentina. We have the group assassins, Mexico, Poland, and Saudi Arabia. Now off the bat, Argentina and Saudi Arabia jump out at me. Argentina on a 35-game undefeated streak. They'll be looking to break Italy's 37-game unbeaten streak by the time the group stages end. So for me, Argentina have to finish first. They have so much quality. Can Messi win a World Cup? That is the big question. Then Saudi Arabia, in my opinion, have absolutely no chance in this group. So I'm not even going to waste time. I'm putting Saudi Arabia fourth. And then we've got Mexico and Poland. The bookies have given Poland a 49% chance of going through. Mexico have been given a 47% chance of going through. 2% in it. However, if we take a look at the history books, every single time since 1994, that's been 7 appearances, Mexico have made it out of the group and then lost in the round of 16. So are we going to back the history books or are we going to back that 2%? For me, I'm going to back the history and put Mexico in 2 and Poland in 3. Then Group D, we've got the world champions France, we've got Denmark who have beaten France twice recently, and then 2 teams with a lot of work to do, Tunisia and Australia. Now off the bat, is the champions curse going to take place? Spain won it in 2010, fell out in the group stages 2014. Germany won it in 2014, fell out of the group stages in 2018. France won it in 2018, fill in the blank. I do think France have way too much quality. I'm not going to waste too much time on this group. Denmark have also been in great form. I've got France in 1, Denmark 2, Tunisia in 3, and Australia in 4. Group E. Now, every World Cup needs a group of death, and that is Group E. With 4-time winners Germany, 2010 winners Spain, an underrated Japan team, and a CONCACAF qualifier, Costa Rica. Now, starting off with Costa Rica, just because they are the serious underdogs in this group, they actually do have some World Cup history themselves. Back in 2014, they actually topped their group, holding Italy, England, and Uruguay. So don't think Costa Rica can't top this group. I know the team's old, they shouldn't be able to do it, and I don't think they will, but don't be surprised if Costa Rica pull off a miracle here. I've got Costa Rica in 4th. That leaves Japan, Spain, and Germany. Now, Japan can be a feisty team, but I just don't think they have what it takes to take on these world giants, Spain and Germany. So I'm putting Japan in 3rd, which then leaves Spain and Germany. Spain are lacking a number 9 up front that is in form ever since David Villa retired. They haven't really been able to fill his boots. However, I do think the midfield of Gavi, Pedri, Sergio Busquets, and Rodrigo will fill those boots, and Spain should be able to top the group here. I've got Spain in 1 and Germany in 2. Group F. Now we've got 2 very successful teams from the 2018 World Cup. Belgium, who finished 3rd, and Croatia, who finished runners-up to France. We've then got Canada, who are appearing in their 2nd ever World Cup, and Morocco, who are appearing in their 2nd World Cup in a row. Now, Belgium's golden generation has done well to put them on the map of the FIFA World Cup. However, a lot of those players have got older and are currently out of form, so the majority of the work is going to have to fall on Kevin De Bruyne and Lukaku. Kevin De Bruyne is really going to have to keep this team together if they are to make it through to the knockout stages. We saw them stumble a little bit in the Nations League, losing both games to Netherlands, but bouncing back very nicely against Poland. We've then got Croatia, who were runners-up in 2018. Luka Modric played an absolutely phenomenal role in that team, winning the Golden Ball, and then later that year, winning the Ballon d'Or. He's going to have to do similar things this year to see Croatia go deep into the tournament. We've then got Canada. Now, I think Canada could surprise a couple of people. I wouldn't be surprised if Canada qualified out of this group. We saw them today beat Japan 2-1. Obviously, a lot is going to fall on Alphonso Davies, and they impressed in the CONCACAF qualification by finishing above Mexico and USA. I haven't predicted them to qualify, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had. And then we've got Morocco, who I just simply don't think have a chance in this group. They do have a couple good players, but for me, I'm going Belgium in 1, Croatia in 2, Canada 3rd, and Morocco in 4th. Now, Group G is very, very interesting. We've got 5-time winners Brazil. We've got World Cup regulars Cameroon, and then we've got 2 dark horses in the form of Serbia and Switzerland. Now, Brazil is the only nation to compete in every single edition of the World Cup. They've also been in ridiculous form, and backing that form is their absolutely stacked squad. Just to name a few: Neymar, Vini Jr., Martinelli, Jesus. They've got Alisson and Edison in goal. I mean, it's just unfair, to be honest. Then we've got Cameroon, who are going to compete in the 8th World Cup. To be honest, I'm not going to spend too much time on Cameroon. I don't think they have any shot in this group, so I'm putting Cameroon 4th. It goes without saying that I'm putting Brazil 1st. I mean, they're one of the best teams in the world, one of the favorites to win, which then leaves us with Serbia and Switzerland. Now, Serbia will be relying on the combination of Mitrovic and Kostic. I do think Serbia have slightly better chances than Switzerland here, even though...
You have to do what? What? Uh-oh. Oh, okay.
Dude, it's not even Thanksgiving yet.
Welcome to Stokastics on the Contrary. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm joined by not just one, but two cast members of the hit reality TV show Chasing the GOAT. As usual, I'm joined by the GOAT himself, Alex Baker. You can find him on Twitter at AwesomeODFS. But today we are also joined by another of the current best players in the game. He is David Bergman. You can find him on Twitter at WhistlesWoo. That's with 3 O's on Woo. And this show is sponsored by PrizePicks, which offers daily prop-based contests. While you're coming in, please hit that like button. And if you are not already subscribed, subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot of great content that you won't want to miss. David, Skol.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the Vikings. I don't know if they deserved the win last week, but things worked in their favor towards the end of the game. But they're a team to watch. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. But it is exciting. I think, I've never been a big fan of Kirk Cousins. Okay, but he's got a cast of. I mean, I don't know. Any quarterback should do well in that position, I feel. So I think it's a really exciting team to watch. Let's see how they go down the road. I think their strength of schedule is about median, in the middle somewhere for the rest of the season. Playoffs are almost a shoe-in at this point. We'll see where it takes us.
David, I want to ask you one more question. So first of all, I'm very excited. I saw on a graphic last night, 9% chance of winning the Super Bowl for the Vikings. That's blowing my mind. So I'm pretty excited about the Vikings as well. It just occurred to me, because we're talking about Vikings odds and such, that you're a big Survivor guy, aren't you? You wrote a paper on Survivor at one point. Do you have any remaining survivors these days?
I don't, actually, I didn't even do a survivor pool this year. I think I was telling you guys, I had my third kid 3 months ago.
That's right.
I have 3 kids under 5. So my time is tight no matter what I'm doing. But it really is that. But it's okay. I mean, I love survivor pools. I think they're great. I've actually talked to some of the DraftKings guys. I want them to have like mini survivor pools throughout the season. So here's one from week 11 to week 16. You can buy in 5 entries, however many you have at the end. Let's see what happens. So that's something I would love if they offered, because then, the only problem with survivor pools is a one-time shot. You lose. It's kind of frustrating, as opposed to DFS that, I can mess up a slate and that's perfectly fine. Tomorrow's another day. So we'll see. But yes, I do love survivor pools, and anybody ever wants to talk about that, I'm all ears. Awesome.
And I remember that you had a baby, because you and I were talking about going to a Vikings game. We were trying to schedule something, and I was like, oh, I'm having a baby like on that same day of the one that would work. So glad you had the baby. Alex, I'll turn it over to you. How are you doing? How's your week going?
What's up, guys? Yeah, David. Whistles. It's cool to have you on the show. It's like we haven't seen each other since Chasing the GOAT, it feels like. And I was out at the bar last night, and I saw some cast members from a fellow reality show, The Bachelorette. Like these 4 guys, like one of my buddies got pictures with them and stuff. I wanted to take a picture and be like, just the fellow reality TV stars like hanging out. But how did the show? It never made it big. Like, what is going on? Like, what do you think?
I have no clue why. I mean, most of my friends call me a G-list celeb at this point. I don't really know why it wouldn't take off, but that's all right. We keep on trying. That's all.
I did my part. I watched every episode. I would continue to watch every episode. I vow, if you keep making the series, I'll watch every episode. If you're listening to DraftKings, you got to keep going with Chasing the GOAT. And I don't think I'm alone in that. All right, let's talk a little bit about this slate. Alex, start with you. Anything from a strategy standpoint, any overarching thoughts on this slate? Anything different than usual?
Well, I think that Buffalo's game getting moved, that's definitely unusual. That one looked like it would be like the game theory spot of the week with all the snow, but now they're playing in a dome, so Buffalo has definitely emerged as a top option when we were like unsure exactly what would happen. And then, the game of the week could be Chicago versus Atlanta, 2 very, very run-heavy offenses, but the total in this game is almost like 50 points. Atlanta is projected for like 26 of them, so it's hard to imagine like these 2 offenses putting up those points, but that's what we're working with.
Atlanta, Chicago, game of the week, man. That's things are brutal out here. David, how about you? Any overarching thoughts, any strategy thoughts on this slate in particular? And it's fine if you don't have any.
Yeah, I mean, so I made sure to at least run some preliminary something so I'd have something to say on the show a couple minutes before the show. Yeah, I mean, I think that the high flying game may be Minnesota versus Dallas. It's not just because I'm a Vikings fan, but I mean, I think that they're both projected in the low to mid 20s. And yeah, I mean, that could be a high fly. It's the end of the slate, right? I think that's okay, there's 425 games, so that would be an interesting one to look at. Philly, you're probably looking at a total blowout. So don't know if I'm thinking about that right. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, that game I might shy away from. There's just I think there's a couple blowouts where otherwise I might pick players, but I might shy away from them. Take Carolina versus Baltimore, right? I mean, that's could be a 14-point game, right? Really quick. So you might want to think about how you handle that. But from the team perspective, that's what I see. I think the running back situation right now as it stands, I see some chalks emerging. We can talk about that as we get through. But otherwise, yeah, just starting to feel it out and see what's out there.
Of course, yeah, just starting that process. Also, one production note here is if we go dark during the show, it's not Twitter's fault. It's because producer Mike is in Buffalo, and they're getting hit with a terrible snowstorm. So if you're watching this, all of a sudden, we go silent, we go black on the screen. It's because Mike is in Buffalo and he has lost. I have no idea how that would actually work if he lost internet. But that is the only threat we have facing this show today, I think. Alex, let's move on and let's talk about some quarterbacks. Is there any chalk that you're willing to eat among quarterbacks? We don't really have any real chalk, but any fades or relative chalk that you're willing to eat this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to eat Josh Allen. Like, he's liable to put up a monster fantasy score like every single week, and you have a quarterback who gets like most of the rushing touchdowns and all the passing touchdowns. So you're betting on Buffalo to get a lot of touchdowns, and usually that's a bet that pays off. So it's hard to like poke holes in Josh Allen, except maybe like he didn't run as much last week as normal, and it could be because of the elbow injury. So I haven't heard much about his elbow this week, but like it still seems like the top option.
What about the other side of it? I know you are you're not a Bears fan, you're a Lions fan. Well, you know the Bears well. Justin Fields now. I think that we got to talk about Justin Fields. So that's going to be a big question for everybody. Do you think that this 12% ownership is going to hold up, or is this kind of a spot where it's a little bit harder to read the situation because we have so much? I mean, I have to imagine there will be some people chasing the Justin Fields back-to-back 40-point games. Now he's in a matchup with Atlanta, which is, about almost as good as the Detroit matchup was. His price come up to 7,600 though. So, if ownership stays at around 12%, are you willing to get there with Justin Fields? And do you think that's going to hold? Do you think it's going to be close to that number?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's going to be really high. Like we saw last week, Fields was 30%. So his price has gone up, so maybe he'll be less popular. But still, like people have been winning loads of money playing Justin Fields in the last 2 weeks, and the rest of us have been losing a lot of money. So like it wouldn't be surprising at all if people go back to the well here. The matchup versus Atlanta is one that's not unfavorable. So as far as like superstars in the making, I think everyone's looking at Justin Fields, and that's maybe a reason to look elsewhere if you're trying to get a leg up this week.
Okay, yeah, we have Justin Fields even in the boom bust duel. So last week, historically, he's looked better in the boom bust than the top stacks, I think, but even in the boom bust tool, we're seeing some negative leverage on Justin Fields. So I'm probably going to try and fade, but it's going to be really uncomfortable after seeing what he's done the past couple of weeks. What about you, Whistles? Anybody? I mean, the chalk is all relative. So I'm just looking at the top of the ownership. We've got Fields at 12.3%, Josh Allen 10.8%, Dak Prescott 8.5%. Is there anybody up here that you are fading, or anybody that you're willing to get to or above the field?
Yeah, I like Dak here. He, one touchdown a couple weeks ago, then 2, then 3. He's thrown interceptions. Okay, that's fine. But I mean, they're not shy to throw with him. And yeah, I mean, I just, against there's going to be points in this game, I think. So if you want to be sure that you're going to, I think a floor wise, he's a good bet. Of course, Allen and Fields are not going to have a low floor either. So I think you can go with them, but I think people are going to ride the Fields train maybe a little bit too heavily. So going. I think Dak is a very good option right now. I mean, he's the salary at 6,600 is way lower than the other two, right? That we're talking about. There's other quarterbacks that are going to be projected around him, Kirk Cousins, for example. But I think Dak has a really high ceiling typically that will throw the ball. And as he gets more comfortable being back, I think that he will soon hopefully arise as a top target.
Is this a week where you're going to lock in one quarterback in the low dollar millie?
So I like to do that just for fun. I get something to watch, I mean, it's when you've got this other millionaire, which is a 4,444 per entry, you lock one quarterback. It's not necessarily the craziest thing in the world. Although I've talked to, Awesome about this too. I don't know if that's the best strategy for that one. I've never won that. So who knows what the best strategy is there. But I think he would be a good option this week for that. I don't think it would be a bad play.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's $3,000 in total entries where you're having multiple single entries that are over $4,000. So it's not actually, as far as your bankroll goes, locking in one quarterback in that contest is not the biggest deal in the world. Alex, you have won a milli maker in the 44-44, right? That's the one that you won.
Yeah, I haven't won one of the big ones yet, but this could be my week. You never know. But whistles, it was really funny because we were on the boat on chasing the goat, and he's like, "What quarterback should I play?" And I was like, "Ben Roethlisberger." And like somehow whistles like thought I was being serious and locked it in. And I think that Big Ben had like 10 fantasy points this week. So I'm hoping that this week, wouldn't it be funny if you pick 150 Baker Mayfield lineups?
Baker Mayfield, that's a perfect bet. All right, I'll think about it.
I didn't know that Whistles was so easily swayed. I'm going to start DMing him before contest. Just
right.
The worst plays.
Some horrible picks. I'll just put him in. Because you know what? When that pick turns out to be great, then, I'll be the one on top. And you guys will be like, wow, he's so smart. He listened to us.
That's right. All right. Let's this show is on the contrary. Let's talk some contrarian plays. Alex, I'll go back to you. Any contrarian plays that you like at quarterback this week?
Mariota, I mean, it's a guy that hasn't worked out at all recently, but he passes once in a while, and it's like he could, everyone's going to be on Justin Fields in this game, and Atlanta is projected to score more points. Mariota is far cheaper than Fields, and that's about all I have confidence in. Like stacking him up doesn't feel great, but it's what we're working with here. So I think that Atlanta stack is one that I may continue to take some shots on.
And when you stack with Marcus Mariota, is that just a skinny stack, or do you try to double stack primarily?
I think it's a skinny stack probably, just because the passing volume is pretty low. Like double stack's fine, but Mariota does add enough on the ground to make it work. And the interesting thing about the Mariota stack is you probably don't need to run it back with Chicago players, because you only get one quarterback spot, and Justin Fields is the most likely player on Chicago to go off. So Atlanta could easily have to continue to try to run up the score if Justin Fields is having a big game.
Yep. So Larry C says, Alex, Mariota is your T.Y. Hilton this year. I think we have a lot of examples of you, and the Jacoby Myers was an example of just players that like the projections love every week, and you just keep going at them. And then John ML says he is going to get benched about Mariota. Do you have any concern? I mean, that to me is like almost a real concern. Quarterbacks don't often get benched mid-game, I think, but I think that it's if anybody were going to, I think Marcus Mariota might be in line for the benching. Do you have any concern there?
Well, yeah, I mean, they have Desmond Ridder, who they want to get some NFL experience. However, Atlanta is actually doing fairly well this year, so I do feel like they're still I'm trying to like pull up the standings just so I don't totally make a fool of myself, but they're 4-6, so they're still in it. Like, obviously, if the game goes south and they're losing bad, you're probably not going to win with Mariota anyway. But the bottom line is there's a 49.5 team or over under in this game. Atlanta is a 3-point favorite. So Mariota, like, the team is projected to get a lot of touchdowns. And like, that's what you're hoping for, is just if you pick Mariota, you're hoping he throws a couple, maybe runs one or two, and the Vegas total indicates that's a strong possibility.
That's a really good point that, they're not benching Mariota unless he's doing poorly already. And if he's already doing poorly enough, like in the first half, then he's probably not going to be getting there anyway. So, you don't have to worry about it all that much.
What about Mac Jones? Mac Jones was benched a couple of weeks ago. I mean, he's on the slate. You can go for him if you want. No one else will.
I don't see many people playing Mac Jones. That is a good point.
You might be benched. Who knows? Yeah.
Whistles, let me ask you a more general question that Larry C asked in chat. Do you mainly skinny stack with running quarterbacks? So meaning just one pass catcher when you use a running quarterback?
I definitely allow that. If I'm constant, so suppose I'm in the 150 and I'm not doing something that also tells me to do, and I'm actually trying to win it. So suppose I have like 20 entries with the real runner as a quarterback, right? I might even have some no stack, so not a single receiver, some single stacks, and even some double stacks. So I know about a third each. So I would spread it around.
Okay. All right. So you spread out the,
yeah, because I mean, in the case where a runner runs for like 2-3 touchdowns, I mean, great, right? You're gonna have some lineups that are absolutely live. You've got really stars on all other teams there, potentially. Then yeah, with this skinny stack makes sense, of course, with a running back, and yeah, I mean, with a running quarterback, and two can work too, right? So I don't disallow anything. Of course, I don't allow a single, like a non-stacked quarterback if it's not a running quarterback, right? I'm not going to put Kirk Cousins in by himself. But yeah, it just depends on the slate, depends on the week. I allow anything though.
Okay. And how about you? I asked Alex a question for contrarian quarterbacks. Any contrarian quarterbacks who stand out to you this week for a large field GPP?
Yeah, why not Russell Wilson? People will avoid him. He's got a pretty favorable matchup. I think I think he could score a bunch against. They're playing the Raiders, right? I hope I'm not saying something dumb here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders are like 23rd, 24th in pass yards, so they're not great. Russell Wilson, yeah, maybe a bit of a disappointment so far. I think most people would think that, but I don't see why. 1 week he has a huge outcome, right? So I think that's a good pick. And he's under $6,000. I think that for that, Marcus Mariota is even cheaper. So okay, I can understand going for him. But I don't think Russell Wilson is such a bad play.
No, I agree. So I did the strategy show on Wednesday, and we talked about Russell Wilson a little bit. The Raiders are, in terms of pass DVOA on Football Outsiders, they're dead last against the pass, the Raiders defense, and 24th against the rush. So it's just a great spot for Russell Wilson. And yeah, he hasn't shown us much so far this year, and he might be completely washed, but even a washed quarterback can throw for 4 touchdowns in a random game sometime, especially against a bad defense. So I definitely think Russell Wilson is live for a good game. All right. Anybody else that you wanted to call out their whistles, or is Russell Wilson and Marcus Mariota, are they the top contrarian guys for you?
Yeah, I think those are good picks for contrarian if that's what you want to go for. I don't see anybody. I mean, you're not going to go for Zach Wilson, I don't think. And
probably not.
I'm going to go for. Yeah.
Okay. Alex, any other quarterbacks that you wanted to talk about before we move on?
Sure. Yeah, I'll throw out Mac Jones as a possible option. I know you were joking about him earlier, but the Patriots have shown a willingness to pass this year. He's been about average when he has passed. So and the main thing with quarterback is you got to get good plays at that same team. Jacoby Myers has a high target share. He's a fantastic player. He's even scoring touchdowns this year, so I like him. Ramondre Stevenson is one of the best plays of the week because he, even with Damian Harris back, he still got like a pretty large workload in the last game they both played. So I feel pretty confident with Ramondre, and if both of those guys have big games, then Mac Jones is liable to have one. So I see some potential there.
So you would, with Mac Jones, I mean, you're obviously always stacking with Mac Jones, presumably generally double stacking with Mac Jones, and you would include Ramondre Stevenson as a potential option in those double stacks?
Yeah, definitely, because he's been getting receptions quite a bit. He's been running routes on about 60% of plays. His target share this year has been 24%, so very solid. So I think that it's not advantageous to stack up a running back as other positions because you're paying for part of it that's not correlated, but still, in this instance, is a very solid option.
Okay. Well, then let's move on and talk about some running backs. But first, I do want to talk about our lineup generator. Great new tool at Stokastic that helps you build winning lineups for GPPs or for any DFS contest. Mike is going to be putting lineup generator up on the screen so you can take a look at it as we talk about it. Our cutting edge algorithms analyze player data and trends to help you make the best choices for your lineup. With our easy to use interface, you can have your lineups built in seconds. No more hours spent researching players if you don't have the time. Get an edge on your opponents by using lineup generator's powerful contest simulations. Saves you time and energy. Some features include the ability to choose between balanced builds, highly projected builds, or contrarian ones. You can save or discard your lineups as you go. You have player exposures once you've created your lineup. So after you've chosen a lineup set, it'll give you your exposures to players, just like in Fantasy Cruncher. And you have the ability to stack an NFL contest with running and with run backs if you want to, or skinny stacks, double stacks, whatever you want to do. In general, chalk your lineups more likely to cash in a contest, but going too heavy on the favorites can leave you with a lowly finish if they all underperform. On the other hand, contrarian lineups may not always be in the money, but if they hit, you could be looking at a big payday. Alex, this is a great tool. Have you, I mean, I know you worked on the tool. Have you been back testing? I think just looking at these lineups, they all look very solid to me. Have you played around with the tool since you built them?
Absolutely. Yeah. Every Friday I'm making lineups with the lineup generator. And I think it's a great tool. Like we just added some more stacking functionality. So one of the things that I found in my research at the beginning of the year is that on average, if you just generate lineups using a stack of 2 players instead of 1 player, you're going to get a higher return on your money. So like that would probably be my first pick is either 2-man stacks or 2-man plus run back. And then like from there, like you get a lineup pool that like we already filter out all the bad lineups. So the kind of optimizer, like I always like build lineups with randomness and then I have to like delete a bunch of them, but we already delete them for you. So you're looking at all good lineups. You just have to go through and figure out which ones you feel like are going to be the winners that week. So it's really fun.
Yeah. And Joseph Ortenzi asked, what is a skinny stack? Joseph, that's just a stack that has only one pass catcher with the quarterback. So we call that a skinny stack. Sometimes we refer to running a quarterback out there naked. That means we're running the quarterback without any stack. So no pass catchers from his same team. And then a double stack would be the quarterback along with 2 pass catchers from the team is what we mean when we use those terms. All right, let's move on from quarterbacks and talk about running backs. Alex, I'll go back to you looking at the chalk of the position. Any chalk that you're willing to eat or any fades among those high-owned running backs?
Yeah. Ramondre Stevenson, I mentioned, is someone that stands out as a good play this week. Damian Harris being back does lessen his outlook a little bit, but Patriots love to run the ball. And even if they found themselves in a neutral or a negative game script, Ramondre Stevenson still has outs. So I like him a lot. And then David Montgomery with Khalil Herbert on the IR should have all the opportunities he can handle. So he hasn't done a ton with them to this point, but that just means he's not going to be as high owned as he otherwise would.
I had a lot of David Montgomery last week against the Lions as leverage against the Justin Fields chalk. And of course I had 0 Justin Fields. That was so heartbreaking with like 20 seconds left in the first half. They gave the ball on the 1-yard line, 1st and goal to David Montgomery. He fails. And then of course they run it in with Justin Fields. So that was painful, but I think you can make the same argument here that David Montgomery is once again going to be leverage against what we expect to be a pretty chalky Justin Fields. So that's going to be one of my top plays as well, going to David Montgomery. And of course, with the benefit now, as you say, with no Khalil Herbert. Whistles, I'll throw it to you. Any looking at the high end of the ownership, any chalk that you're willing to eat or fades for you? Is he still here?
I was muted. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So yeah, running backs are a little bit hard for me. They seem to have big chalk plays, and when you use them, you can kind of fill in with very good players in other positions. We didn't talk about Pierce yet. I mean, he's been somewhat chalk for a lot of the season, I think. It's hard. I mean, it's 6,500. There's like nobody really near him, that you could. Montgomery, I guess, is a little bit cheaper, but like you're gonna get more out of Pierce. As a play, Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he's been very disappointing this year. Not that people are picking him anyway. I don't think that much recently. Finally had somewhat of a breakout, mostly due to one large run last week. But he's a good play right now, I think. If you want to have, I guess we're going towards the contrarian already there. But yeah,
got him at 14.3%. So that's I mean, it's
oh,
not
that's pretty
the
high.
most chalky, but yeah, still relatively chalky.
I think Pierce and Stevenson will be the top chalk plays, at least according to what I am looking at right now. Montgomery also up there. So that's what I'm looking at. And I'm happy to eat both of those. I think they are right for the salary. But everyone else will also think they're right. So of course you got the game theory aspect always.
Of course, yeah, but yeah, just from a points per dollar standpoint, both look like great plays. And yeah, if the field plays it right, sometimes you just have to accept that the field is playing it right and eat that chalk. All right, David, I'll stick with you though. We'll go into those contrarian options a little bit. Anybody you like who is not getting a ton of ownership at running back?
So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I like anyone that really is not going to get that is not getting that much ownership yet. I mean, Mixon had a crazy game recently. He's not cheap, but while they have some injuries at wide receiver, it's not the worst play there. Besides that, I typically go for the top running backs. I try not to get too exotic there because you need to make sure you get carries, right? I mean, and I think even for season-long DFS, it's something that people always go for running backs first, or at least typically what I've seen when I used to play a lot of season-long fantasy. Because you just need to have the touches, right? And you don't know. I mean, wide receivers, you can go a little more exotic, I find, because, if you get some guy who, happens to score a touchdown, then great. But with running backs, sticking with the top 10 guys is what I typically do. So yeah, I don't see much of a contrarian pick available right now.
And that seems to be what has been working pretty frequently this week, is just sticking with the chalk a little bit at running back and get different with wide receivers. And I think it makes some sense. As you say, running backs, you just need the volume with running backs. It's a lot harder to have a breakout play. Obviously, you see the 70-yard rushes from time to time, but it's harder to have like a slate breaking single play when you're just carrying the ball, as opposed to a receiver. It's much more common to see a 40+ yard touchdown. So I think it makes sense. Is that kind of the reasoning, you think?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, there's a few running backs that might get that large. I mean, any running back could have a huge breakout play. Okay, fine. But very hard to kind of, I don't know, to kind of figure out who that might be and how to, you can't, the stacking is harder, right? So I don't know. I prefer to just go for the top people. I mean, you've got Barkley, you've got Stevenson, you got Josh Jacobs, who's been fantastic, by the way. They give him the ball all the time. He's a great play. Pierce, Kamara. I mean, Kamara also a little disappointing this year, but okay. Those are the people that I would think about.
Okay. Yeah, and Adam Baummother also points out there are also fewer playable running backs, which is true. There are just 3 times as many wide receivers who are playable typically as there are running backs. So easier to get a little bit different there. Alex, I'll throw it to you now. Any contrarian running backs that you're planning on playing this weekend?
Yeah, I agree with Whistles. It's a position where it's a little tougher to get contrarian, but one guy that seems to not be picking up ownership is Cordarrelle Patterson. Like, the Falcons have one of the highest team totals this week somehow. I guess the Bears' defense is that bad. So Cordarrelle Patterson has been a great player. Like, when he's been on the field, playing time since coming back from the IR hasn't been great, but you never know what it could be this week. So a little bit of a risky play, but one that I think is worth taking some shots on.
Yeah, I mean, just looking.
Wasn't last week the showdown where they like barely played him?
Yeah,
and everyone had him. Yeah,
that's right.
That's a contrarian play. I agree with you, Osimo. Look, I think people will avoid him even if they play that showdown. Then definitely, I will avoid him. Okay, but right, if he hits, then who knows?
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. I had went more and more Cordarrelle Patterson, I think, throughout my crunches. I was like, man, he's just not going to get a ton of ownership because he's so expensive. And then, of course, he did absolutely nothing. So that was no fun. But yeah, as you say, I mean, just looking at the boom bust tool, we have Cordarrelle Patterson projected for 3.7% ownership in a great matchup against a bad Bears defense. We have him in the optimal 9.2% of the time. Of course, that all depends on how much volume we expect him to get. But if you expect him to get the volume, Cordarrelle Patterson certainly is going to make a lot of sense. Any other contrarian running backs you like, Alex?
No, I hate the other contrarian running backs.
You hate them, like personally, or just as players?
Yeah, personally.
Okay.
Well, okay, so Jamal Williams, I guess, is someone that you could take a shot on. Miles Sanders, but and my favorite contrarian running back every week is Ezekiel Elliott, because he if Dallas gets a lot of goal line touchdowns, it's probably going to be Ezekiel Elliott, who has 5 out of 7 goal line carries for the Cowboys this year. So whenever a guy has good touchdown equity compared to his projection, that could be a good contrarian play.
Yeah, for sure. Not many people are going to go there as he's coming off injury. Definitely going to be contrarian. Of course, we have to wait and see if he is active. I don't think that he's a sure thing yet. I don't know if he's still questionable.
They did announce this morning that he's probably going to play.
Oh, nice. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, still probably going to be lower owned. All right, David, any other contrarian running backs that you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, Pollard is also interesting too. I mean, if you just stick with Dallas, right? I think either one of them are contrarian in a way, right? But no one besides.
I guess you kind of already answered that you hate everybody outside those top 10. So we don't need to get too in depth. Excuse me. With running backs, I think we have covered running backs pretty well. So let me take a minute to tell you about our sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks offers daily prop-based contests. There are no sharks, optimizers, or mass entries on Prize Picks. You build 5-player lineups and you can net up to 10x your entry fee. You can also use your knowledge of multiple sports in the same entry. Right now is a great time to do so with NHL, NBA, NFL all happening at the same time. You can make entries that use your knowledge of multiple sports. Click the link in the description below to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and up to $100 deposit match bonus when you sign up and make a deposit with Prize Picks. Of course, included in that Stokastic Plus Platinum is the lineup generator that we showed you earlier, among all the other tools that we're talking about throughout this show. So check that out if you have access to Prize Picks in your state. Alex, are you ready to do some Prize Picks? Do you have any pulled up, or should I read you some props here?
Well, I think I have a general sense of guys that I'm over and under on. One that I like the overs is Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not sure if his props have been posted yet, but I feel like last week the prop was like 45 yards. He didn't end up playing, but like he does get a majority of the work in Dallas. And then the other play I like is Mariota over on passing, because Chicago has been showing signs of having a good offense. So the line on Mariota's passing is always incredibly low.
160.5.
Yeah. So and that's the mark where like the bad defense of Chicago, like he could easily exceed that.
Okay. Yeah, I like that for sure. 160.5. That's a very low line for Mariota there. All right. Sounds like some good picks there. Eric, how about Cook with Minnesota? I don't know if you asked him about Prize Picks or DFS. Let me just see where I have. Oh, so he's 8,000. Just looking at the boom bust tool, he looks like we've got him at 11% owned. So not really contrarian, not fully chalky, just kind of highly owned at 11%. We have him optimal 3.5% of the time, Dalvin Cook. So doesn't look like the best play in the boom bust tool, but of course, Dalvin Cook is always live to put up a couple touchdowns. All right, let's move on and talk about some wide receivers, though. We'll start with the chalk, and Alex, I will go to you first. Any chalk you're willing to eat or fades among wide receivers?
Well, it's always a position where there's a ton of like really high ceiling players. So Diggs, I've said this once, I'll say it again, where I feel like playing him without Josh Allen is always an interesting option, because like everyone knows Josh Allen has Diggs, right? So like a lot of this ownership you see on the tool is like paired with Josh Allen. But if you hit your other quarterback pick, even if Diggs has a big game, like Josh Allen's so expensive that Diggs could easily be in the optimal. So that's one of my go-to strategies when a quarterback is chalky. And then Yeah, I guess Amon-Ra St. Brown is really hard to poke holes in because he just seems to get targets after targets every single week. So, and there's really no one in Detroit now that TJ Hawkinson's traded. So there's no reason to expect that not to continue.
And a great matchup with the Giants, 23rd in terms of pass DVOA. So yeah, definitely great spot there. David, how about you? Any chalk that you're willing to eat or fades among the chalkier wide receivers?
I mean, I think Diggs is the third highest salary, but he's probably going to be the highest projection among all sites. So yeah, you eat that one. And I think Osmo's right. Like, you can easily play him by himself. Like, there's just no problem. Take Jefferson, though, a little bit harder, right? You probably would need to have him with Kirk Cousins just because, like, he's so expensive. So you need that to be the stack that flies. As far as other chalks, yeah, I'm on St. Brown. I mean, he gets it. I don't think CeeDee Lamb, I mean, he's going to get some receptions too. I don't really, as far as other, I don't see much chalkier beyond Diggs, really. I think he's, I ran my model ahead of time, and he's owned a lot by me if I don't touch anything. So he's definitely the chalk that's going to be played by at least whistles.
Okay, I mean, you like Dak Prescott a lot, so I assume that you're going to be getting to some CeeDee Lamb in those Dak Prescott lineups.
Yeah, and then I mean, if you want me to go contrarian, Gallup is a great pick. It of course you stack them. There's no question. But if Dak has 4 touchdowns, Gallup gets 1, and then CD gets 1, you're in a good situation, and that's not impossible this week. So I really like that as like a stack to focus in on. And then so yes, I think that's a good play. I really like the Dallas stack this week.
Yeah, Michael Gallup, only 5,100, and we haven't projected for 3.9% ownership. So definitely looking pretty contrarian, and could be an interesting game stack. You can bring it back with Justin Jefferson on the other side. Probably going to be one of our. It's a stack that I have interest in too. I'm with you on that Cowboys stack, and then maybe would you bring it back with the Vikings player from the other side, David?
Yeah, but you don't. It doesn't have to be. I keep on saying Thielen's going to become more part of the offense, but I don't know. It's not happening. I don't understand it, though, because, I mean, there is such a good when he throws it to Thielen, it's small windows, and Thielen gets the ball, and he plays so well. So I don't know. I guess, I mean, Jefferson is unbelievable, so I can't fault the Vikings for going with all, a lot of a good portion of the targets to him. But, you could definitely bring it back with Thielen. And I think he's very valuable right now at 5,500. It's a play.
Yeah, I've been doing that play week after week, the Thielen play. I'm like, he does this every year. He goes like he's radio silent for a few weeks, and then he just pops off with 3 touchdowns, and it just seems to happen every year. And then this year it's just not happening. So hasn't been working out. But yeah, 5,500. The price is right. He's still the wide receiver 2 for the Vikings. So I'm with you. I think Thielen makes for another interesting contrarian plays. Anybody else you want to mention before I throw it over to Alex?
No one. I like Terry McLaurin a lot. I think he's good, but I don't know. Heineke and stuff. I mean, okay, but that's maybe a pick too. But I don't really see anything else right now.
Okay,
I don't have any ideas right now.
Yeah, Alex, I'll throw it to you then. Any wide receivers that you are going to be playing who are a bit more contrarian?
Yeah, definitely. Wan'Dale Robinson stands out as a great option. He's not pulling any ownership now. He is questionable, so I did see they're optimistic about him. But he's one of the few Giants receivers that's been getting consistent playing time. Between 80 and 85% of the dropbacks he's been running a route in the last 3 games. So I think he's a great option. One really deep sleeper from the Giants as well as Isaiah Hodgins, who he has gotten a lot of targets in the games he has played this year. So that's kind of interesting. I just added him in Dynasty. Maybe he's more of a Dynasty pickup than anything, but and then I mean, there's always so many great contrarian options. I guess I like the Thielen call, Brandon Cooks as well. Like, he didn't play as much last week, but the price is pretty low at 5,400, and it's a little bit tough to know what's going to happen because of all the like thing about him wanting a trade, and then he got his captain thing stripped. So maybe that's why he's only in the contrarian bucket.
So then we also have had actually a few people asking about Nico Collins. Would you have any interest in playing some Nico Collins under the assumption that maybe Brandon Cooks is not used quite as much?
Yeah, he looks good. I mean, 8% chance of being in the optimal lineup, only 4,100. So Nico Collins is definitely a great play. We're not projecting him to be contrarian necessarily, though.
Okay. We got a question about which Chiefs wide receiver, but that is a Sunday night football game this week. So we will talk about that on Sunday night football. That's Sunday, right? Not Monday night. Yes.
Well, they have it on the Yahoo main slate, so we can throw some more.
Okay.
Some Chiefs,
yeah, you
right?
want to talk about Chiefs wide receivers?
Well, I think it's all going to come down to if Juju plays, where if he doesn't play, then this is going to open up a lot of value with like Tony and Scantling and stuff. But yeah, let's I guess we can't spend too much time because it's Yahoo only.
Right. And we're already we know that Mecole Hardman is out, so it's going to come down to Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. If Juju's in, it would be Juju, and then if Juju's out, maybe then do you consider like a Sky Moore or a Justin Watson, somebody like that?
Watson would be like the guy, yeah, because he ran routes on 73% of the plays last week, so it's pretty clear that he'll be involved.
Okay, and I thought, oh yeah, M. Bruno says I expected a lot more Higgins talk. Do we have any thoughts, Alex, on T. Higgins? Do you have any interest there against the Bengals defense without Jamar Chase?
Yeah, they're going up against Pittsburgh this week. It looks like he's a pretty good value. And let me look at the ownership. I think the reason why we didn't talk about him is just because he is kind of in the middle threshold of like chalky to contrarian, where
right
15% owned is about average, or I mean like high the top 10, but he doesn't stand out remarkably in any way from a game theory perspective.
Yeah, he looks good at the ownership. We've got him at 15% owned, 13% chance of being optimal, but that's neutral enough that certainly somebody you can play at 7,100. It's he is the wide receiver one in a decent enough matchup against Pittsburgh. So I think T. Higgins is a fine play. All right, does that cover it for all of the? I mean, I know you could talk about contrarian wide receivers for days, Alex. And anybody else you want to throw out there?
No.
And whistles. You mentioned Denver being an interesting stack. I see Jerry Jeudy. We are projected for 6% ownership, 13% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Can I interest you in some Jerry Jeudy? Although, wait, is Jerry Jeudy out? Let me double check this. Do you know who you're going to be playing in your Denver stacks at all, whistles?
Sutton, and that's going to be the number one thing. And yeah, I think it's a good play too. I think he's a good salary for what you can expect from him. But that's you know, and of course, yeah. I mean, the thing is like Greg Dulcich, if I'm saying his name correctly, on the tight end spot. I know we're probably going to go to tight ends next. He's, you know, I mean, I think he's the best value for his salary, or one of the best values at tight end. So he's a great person to put in, I think, even if you're not stacking. So, yeah, that's probably those two players stacked is probably what I would go for.
Okay, Cortland Sutton, Greg Dulcich. Yeah, I can't find definitive word on Jerry Jeudy. I was thinking he was going to miss some time, but I'm not actually finding on Twitter at least anything definitive on Jerry Jeudy. So I guess we can figure that out when we get there. But at least Cortland Sutton going to look good as far as wide receivers in that game for Denver. All right, that will do it for wide receivers. Let me tell you guys, if Prize Picks is not available in your state, BetMGM probably is. They're generally not in the same states. And we've got a great offer for you from BetMGM. You'll get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up, deposit, and bet at least $10. That's every tool on Stokastic for every sport other than Fantasy Cruncher. It's a $240 value if you sign up for BetMGM using our link. All you need to do is click the link in the description or in chat, follow the steps, and deposit $10 or more and place a bet of $10 or more on whatever you want. And when the bet settles, MGM will hit you up with how to get your free subscription of Stokastic. You don't even need to win the bet. On top of all that, you will also get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That means that if you win your bet, you win the bet. You get whatever you win for winning the bet. If you lose the bet, though, you still get your $1,000 back in free bets, up to $1,000. Whatever you bet, you'll get it back in terms of free bets at BetMGM. It's legit free money and a free subscription to the best DFS tools out there. Reminder, though, make sure that you do use the link or we won't be able to track it. All right, let's move on and talk some tight ends. Alex, we don't have a lot of chalk at the tight end position. We've only got a couple guys over 10% ownership. How are you feeling about tight end? Is there any relative chalk that you're willing to eat? Any big fades for you at tight end?
Yeah, I mean, Higbee's pretty interesting with Cooper Kupp out of the picture in LA. Tough matchup, but should get plenty of targets and he's cheap. And then Kyle Pitts, I think the passing volume is always questioned in Atlanta, but they have so many like touchdowns projected that like the upside is huge for Pitts. So I think that he's pretty intriguing.
All right. Excuse me, I got something in my throat. I'm taking some and Mr. D go blue and take a sip of water. I'm trying, man. Still just coughing up my lungs here. All right, Whistles, I'll throw it to you. Any fades or chalk that you're willing to eat this week among the higher owned tight ends?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I am happy to see that Mark Andrews' salary is where it should be. He's just by far the best available right now. Hawkinson, he's just new. So, he's got high projection on Awesemo, SaberSim, and the like. Makes sense. But I wouldn't call him chalk. Then Pitts, sometimes they throw him 0 times, right? Not 0 times, but very few times. So there is a floor there, which is but tight ends. I think you typically do get that floor. Higbee is going to get some action, right? So yeah, I think if you're looking for a good floor, he's a great play. Freiermuth, I would probably avoid him. I just don't trust Pittsburgh right now at all. I mean, you could play him a couple times, but I don't see him as a good thing. And yeah, I mean, Dalton Schultz. Look, I really like Dallas. I don't know why, but I really like Dallas. I've always really liked to play them in DFS, both on the defensive side and the offensive side, by the way. I think so. I've won 2 millionaires in football, both times with Dallas defense. And I think both times with Dak, one time with Dak Prescott. So I think that they're always a good play. I think that, these people have high ceilings. So
for sure. D-Fick, longtime audience member, great guy in the chat, usual, just gave us a super chat. Awesemo and Whistles, good luck in the King of the Beach. You guys, how many tickets do you have in the King of the Beach, Whistles?
So I had 5 after I had 8 after week 1, and they got mad at me because they had to put 3 tickets back in the pool. So I have 5. It's always fun to think about how I'm going to play it, right? Awesemo, how many do you have? Do you have 5? Or
no, I have all I need. I got 1. So D-Fick and chat, thanks. I assume he's in it too, so good luck. Hopefully we can all meet up in San Diego. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, I read the super chat and then I was like, oh wait, D-Fick won on a showdown slate. He won a ticket to the King of the Beach as well. So nice. You guys will get to meet D-Fick out there. I don't remember what his actual, at one point I'm pretty sure maybe it's David. I forget what D-Fick's actual first name is. He just goes by D-Fick everywhere. So yeah, that'll be fun for you guys. I'm not going to be able to join you, sadly. I have not won a ticket to the King of the Beach, but hopefully you guys have fun in San Diego. All right, let's
anyway, excited for that competition. I don't know how I'm going to play it yet. Do I go for all 5 or do I try to spread it out? We'll see.
You mean go for like lock in 1 stack for all 5?
I think I might just play 1 lineup there. I get all 5 there. I mean, I've got 5 out of 75 for 200 up top, 150 second place, and so forth. That's really good, right? I mean, at 75 out of 250, I mean, you can hit that with a single entry, right? It's not unachievable. You actually have to come in 71st, I suppose, right? Because you don't want to chop by yourself. So I'm debating exactly how to play it. We'll see.
Oh, so there are levels to it. So it's not just one competition. Like you still have to. It's like multiple weeks.
Yeah. So there's a playing round this weekend, and you have to come in top 75 out of the 250 if I have the numbers correct. Last year I had 5 too, and I played 5 unique lineups, and not one of them got in. So that happens, but that's also the week that I won a millionaire. So,
Can't complain too much
yeah,
about
I'll
that.
take it. So we'll see how I play. But I really think I'm just going to play one lineup 5 times. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. I was very confused when he said that at first. I was like, why would you just play the same lineup 5 times
Oh.
But now I understand, since there's multiple different levels to it.
I mean,
it makes a lot more sense.
If I had to choose between King of the Beach finals trip or a million, I'd choose King of the Beach because it's really all about the friends you make along the way.
That's right. I mean, but we're gonna lose all of our friends soon when Twitter just goes dark, right? Like none of us would have.
Right.
We spent all this time making friends, and now we're gonna lose contact when Twitter goes dead. All right, Whistles, King of the Pool. Oh, I see. It's Whistles and Alex in the pool together. Yeah, that was man, I missed that show. I missed that reality show, Chasing the Goat. But I'll probably just go back and rewatch some episodes. Some of the great hits from before. All right, tight end, David. Tight end. Any contrarian tight end plays you like this week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's contrarian, but 2 other very good ones that we didn't, a little bit deeper. Knox, Buffalo. I mean, Jared Allen. You never know. I mean, he could, whatever. That guy could definitely catch some touchdowns. Foster Moreau, I think, is also a good play for the Raiders. Don't love the Raiders in general, but I mean, he's a reasonable salary for what he can produce. And that's about as deep as I would think right now.
Yeah, I suppose you already gave several contrarian enough tight end plays, so I'm asking the same question again, I realize. But you mentioned TJ Hawkinson sort of in passing. 10 and 9 targets in his first 2 games with the Vikings. Do you think he's kind of potentially taking over that Adam Thielen role?
Yeah, it's interesting to see it. A tight end and Thielen are different players, obviously, right? You've got, so I don't know. Maybe that's what Cousins just needs to kind of keep the defense, keeping them a little bit tighter towards the quarterback, so you can open up Jefferson. So I can understand it. But yeah, anyway, I'm not sure. We'll see if it continues. I don't know.
Okay. And then Alex, back to you. Any other contrarian tight ends you wanted to hit on?
Sure. Yeah. Logan Thomas, not having the most impressive year so far, but he's been running routes on about 70 to 75% of plays in the last couple of weeks. So he's out there. He's really cheap at 2,800 on DK, and no one has him. So not super excited about Taylor Heineke being the QB in Washington, but this is all about, like, does he get in the end zone? He's a big dude, so I think that the odds aren't bad.
Okay, guys, I think I'm seeing 58 likes here. Can we get that like count up a little bit? I don't generally ask for it many times during the show, but it does help with the algorithm. So would appreciate it if you can hit that like button. All right, I think we have covered tight ends pretty well. And of course, I'm asking you to hit the likes because now we're going to get into your favorite position, defenses. Alex, we're not going to go through all of the usual questions for defense, but any thoughts on the defenses, any fades, chalk you're willing to eat, contrarian plays, anything all at once?
Yeah, I mean, whoever's playing the Saints playing the Rams, which is the Saints this week, seems to be like a good chalk defense. So, like, the Saints defense is already good. You take away Cooper Kupp, and their pass protection has just been like abysmal this year. So that's the obvious chalk that stands out as a good play.
Okay. Actually, Alex, somebody just brought up Cole Kmet in chat. Is he going to be the forgotten man? We've seen Cole Kmet with back-to-back huge wins. I don't expect him to be the forgotten man. Do you have any interest in Cole Kmet at 4,100? I mean, the price is right considering his production. We've only got him at 6.6% ownership. What do you think of Cole Kmet this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to be on Kmet when they have their Justin Fields stacks, but I think this one's pretty simple because he's had 2 huge games in a row, but he's only averaged 8 fantasy points a game this year. So it's really the exception rather than the rule. And I'm happy to fade that.
Okay. Yeah.
I've had some zeros with him, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. He has put up some zeros for sure. So I would not doubt it. David, do you have any thoughts on defenses this weekend?
Yeah, the Browns. 2,300. Okay. They are playing arguably the best team in football, Buffalo, but the Vikings got tons of points. Allen has had some fumbling issues. when a team scores a lot, they also tend to have some turnovers. At least it happens, right? So I think that it's a good contrarian play, at least, right? They're I think they have probably close to, well, maybe not the best value, but 2,300, you can start to do other things at other positions. So I like that. I really think that if you're just playing for a quick a defensive touchdown or something, I think you could get it out of there. As far as chalk, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I see anything really that's super standing out. I guess the Steelers, depending on which projection site you're using, the Steelers seem to have some value, at least according to Stokastic projections right now. But yeah, I don't love the Steelers. I lived in Pittsburgh for 5 years. I don't really love the Steelers this year. If you want to go for the super high end, you could maybe reach for the Ravens. It's a great play, but 400,000 is kind of a lot of your salary. So anyway,
it is a lot for defense. I do sometimes like to pay up to be contrarian, but yeah, oftentimes you just want those cheap defenses to let you do what you want elsewhere in your lineups. Yeah, we've got the Steelers. You brought up 8.7% projected ownership, 10.6% chance of being optimal against Joe Burrow. So and the Bengals. So maybe the Steelers kind of interesting as well. I think that's all we need to say about defenses, though. Let's just talk some top stacks. Alex, I'll go to you first. Favorite stack or two for a large field GPP?
Yeah, Buffalo is definitely my favorite chalk stack, and then contrarian. Like, man, it's tough to just pick one, but I mean, on our top, I guess Atlanta would be my one, where I feel horrible about like them passing the ball at any volume, but it's the NFL, so you never really know what's going to happen, and their touchdown equity is large. So if Mariota is able to account for 3 or 4 touchdowns, that could be a winner easy.
Yeah, for sure. That one looks interesting to me. I think I'm going to go there with you. It does feel kind of gross, but 7.8% chance of being the top point per dollar stack at 4.2% ownership for Marcus Mariota. So I think the Atlanta stack makes a lot of sense, and just intuitively it makes some sense to me too against that Bears defense. All right, Whistles, how about you? Any favorite stacks for a large field GPP?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay. I don't think we have to talk about Allen. I think Allen with any of his guys are a good play. But I do like Wilson and Dak. I like to go towards the 7th or 8th guys in the field. They, I think the ownership goes down that far down, and those are right on the money there. As I've talked about earlier in the show, I see potential for both of them going off this week. So I think stacking them in any way that you're going to probably want to have 1 or 2 receivers, of course, not solo stacks there, but I think those are great plays. At least something that I'm looking at right now.
And what about our boy Kirk Cousins? Are you going to be going to any Viking stacks?
I'll play him. I think probably according to SaberSim right now, I think he has probably the best value. Also, he's close to, he's got really decent, Stokastic, decent value. So, it's not a bad play. Who you stack him with is so interesting. Jefferson is so expensive. I mean, everyone listening, he is, I'm not saying it's not worth the cost, but 9,100 for one player as a wide receiver, it is a high reach. So I don't know. But if you stack him with, for example, Hawkinson and Thielen, yes, that's a good stack right there. Because in the case where they just, Jefferson gets a little bit lower this week, that could pop.
Yeah, for sure. All right, David, where can people find you?
Anywhere. I'm everywhere and anywhere. Yeah, I mean, Twitter's fine. You can find me on the web, various places, university website, whatever. Reach out anytime. I'm open for anything, anytime.
All right. And on Twitter, it's at WhistlesWoo with 3 O's in the woo. Easy to find him. Thanks a lot for coming on, David. It was fun to have you as always. And Alex, any final words for the audience?
No, just thanks for supporting the site. Thanks, Whistles. Hopefully we can meet up in Miami again. And then good luck this week.
Miami for chasing the goat, right?
Yeah, for the cruise, or whatever. I guess we did a little yacht afternoon in Miami, so that was fun.
I know. I watched the reality TV show. I know all about it.
We need a redo for the jumping or the diving contest because there's some allegations of the judge not being impartial.
I mean, it was a clear win. We'll allow the refs to say what they said. I can't fight refs. So,
all right. Well, thank you both to have two members of the Chasing the Goat reality TV show on the show. Just an honor for me to be able to be on the show with both of you. Thanks a lot to you guys. Thanks to the audience for watching. Thanks to Mike Lawrence for producing. He's awesome, yo, on Twitter. Hope you guys can find some luck this weekend. Stick around the Stokastic channel the rest of the day. We've got a couple No House Advantage shows coming up with Aton and EMAC, both NBA and NFL. And then, of course, we've got NBA Live Before Lock and Deeper Dive later on tonight. And, of course, we've got programming all weekend for the NFL and college football with Matt Kajeski and such. So stick around and subscribe to the Stokastic channel if you haven't already. Again, thanks for watching. Good luck this weekend.